Welcome to the cab registration process. This is a quick demonstration that we've put together to show what we're doing for the new cab registration. So this will be pretty easy. It's going to be broken up into two parts. One part is going to be a little bit of PowerPoint so that you can watch it, and if you don't want to watch anything else, that's fine. But we're also going to do a demonstration process so that you can actually see all this stuff in action. First, before we get started, hey, why are we doing this? Well, first of all, we've had a paper process for the many years, and frankly, it's worked. However, it has a lot of issues. I mean, we've had a lot of issues about, well, what's up next? What happens with the paper? People come in. Sometimes the students get upset. We also have no way of actually tracking anything other than how many people there were in the list. So it's not been very good for us to try to figure out where what are our hot times, if we need any more people at certain times of the day, how long it takes us to do the training on each one, and stuff like that. So if we got a little bit more tracking information, that'll help us manage the whole process better. But that's just about us. Also, from the end user's perspective, the student's perspective, kids are not as patient as we would like at times. So it's like, where are we all the time? So, I mean, you spend a lot of time if you're on that desk, well, what is my position in line? It's like going to a restaurant. It's like, how much longer? You've been waiting here for forever, and you have no idea how far along in the process you are. So you have this no feedback ability, which is very dissatisfying. That's why we have a lot of people leaving and stuff like that, and then coming back. So what we're going to do is provide a better feedback for those folks. So they're going to be able to see up on a board, they're going to see their position, how long they've been in, etc. So they have a better idea. And plus, we're going to show them, hey, you're up next. I mean, how much better is that? Hey, I'm up next. So they know immediately what's going on. So there's a benefit for us, so there's a benefit for the students and the parents. However, it does mean that you need to learn a few things. We're going to need for you to learn how to assign a student to empty tables. Okay, and also how to mark a student as done at a table so we can have that time. How long were they there? And also, how do we deal with no-shows? Okay, so we can mark them out of the list. So there's three new pieces to this. There's this thing I keep calling a queue, and that's basically a big old list. It's going to be up on a 50-inch TV up on the wall, so everybody's going to be able to go see it. There's also going to be a computer and a screen and a keyboard and a mouse for registration process. This is where the parents or people 18 and over can sign up for the Cabochon area. And then there's going to be a queue management computer set up for you so you can manage the list. So there'll be two computers on the front end desk, one facing one facing the students, and then one facing you, and you'll be able to go deal with it. Now, you can read about this. I've sent this out. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. You can look at the stuff, etc. So I'm not going to cover these two things, and we're going to go more into it when we get into the demonstrations. Now, however, as a good checklist, these are the actions you're going to really need to know how to go do over the next few pages. Now, this one, just print this off or go back and make sure you realize how to go do each one of these things, and then you'll really understand how to use the software and be a queue management expert. Now, the big thing here I want to stop for a second is on the registration. So before we actually weren't covered legally very well. And what I mean by that is like we've got people, these kids using, Cabochons on rotating material. There's chances for them to actually get hurt, et cetera. And we've had no legal release. So we've been lucky that there's been no accidents, et cetera. So what we need to do is actually have a legal release document like you have for any activity out there these days. And this means that children can't sign up. It does require a legal guardian, 18 years or older, to actually agree to this for any minors. So the parents have to go sign up for this and agree to it. Also, since we're going to have the names published up on the board, we're not doing first name, last name, so we're just going to show a last name and the first initial because they are minors. Basically, most of our students are going to be minors, so we want to be very careful about security for their names. Okay. Now, we've also made it so that legal guardians, a lot of them are, parents and you have multiple kids, they can actually sign up multiple people very fast. So whenever they submit, and they have two buttons, submit their child or submit another child. If they submit that child and then a multiple one, it basically clears the first name out, leaves all the other information the same, and they can just put the other child's first name in, hit a button, and keep going. So we've tried to make this very simple for them to go do that. There is an option on the form to provide an email and agree to be on the sign-up list. If somebody wants to be part of our email list, this is a way that they can get into it very quickly. Now, if somebody's having trouble and the buttons aren't working, They haven't agreed to everything. They haven't filled out the information. The buttons will not work, except for the cancel button, unless they fill out all the information. Now on the big board, this is so that you can tell people what's going on if they're asking. The students will be in the blue, and you saw on that one screen, they're big blue ones. Whenever they're in that blue, they're up next. Now, what up next means is variable. If you only have one table open and you just put somebody in on that, and it's been taking that person 10 minutes for each student, then you can tell the person, you'll have 1 to 10 minutes here, probably closer to 10 minutes because we just put somebody in. Okay, but if I have 2 tables going, I might not be tracking both of those as much. And if let's say it's averaging 15 minutes per table, then I can say 1 to 7 minutes is going to be how much time it will be for that one if somebody asks. Again, 3 stations, you got 1 to 5 minutes again. So you can see the more stations that we have open, the shorter that blue response time is. But the key is that if they're in that blue, they're going to be called next. Now, what we need to do is be very firm on this, and we haven't been in the past, and it's caused a lot of delays for us. If somebody's not there when we call them, then they lose their spot in line. So they must be there when they're being called, and they receive a warning by being up in that blue area that can be seen from far away that they're being called up next. In the past, we had no really way to tell people unless they kept coming back and asking. Now we have visual one. They can just look and find out. So there's no reason for them not to be there when we call them, so we don't waste time. It's not fair for everybody else that's been in line for us to wait a couple of minutes for them to come back in and get ready, and we just lose that time. And over the day, we lose, we could have handled maybe 10 more people by how much time has been lost. So the queue on the right, that list, it shows the other students. So if we have 3 tables active, there's going to be 3 people in blue, and then so positions 4 on up will be shown on the right. The right also shows you how long that they've been in the line or in the queue. So they can say, hey, I've been waiting for 15 minutes. They can look up on the board and see that. Now locations will be shown, the tables will be shown down at the bottom of the screen, and that will basically also show you not only the name of it, it'll show you the instructor's name and the assigned student at that one. So if family members are coming in, they want to know where they are, they can just look up on the board and see their child's name and know what station number that they're at. Of course, don't let them in the back. Okay. Now, one thing I didn't have in here is that we're also going to have another TV that's going to be showing how to do all this stuff and the safety briefing. And people, if they're waiting here, should be watching that so they have a better understanding on how to make a cabochon. So with that being in mind, let's go take a look at what it takes to go do this. Okay, let's get started. I just started up and went into the web browser. You're going to see a queue, that the big 50-inch screen is going to be on your screen down below. So you're going to be able to see when we're actually working on this, what the people will actually see up on the big screen. And right now you're going to see everything's really blank, and we just started up and we have nobody. So the first thing to notice is, we need to have some locations for people. So a location, a table, and we got one right here. So I'm just going to click on it and say, let's say table 1, okay? And then let's go ahead and assign Andy to table 1. And so he's going to be the instructor for it. All right, so if we activate it by clicking this button right now, we'll see down on the queue that there is a table 1 with Andy. Now, there's no students right now. So let's take a look at what the registration process looks like. So I'm going to click on registration, and they're going to see something like this, and they're going to need to put their first name in. So let's say Reed Owens, and let's pretend, well, if I'm over 18 and I click on this, you're going to see that I can just submit, and that's fine. And when I submit, I agree to the accident waiver of released liability and that I've looked over the safety information. And you can see that information is below here. Now, if I'm not over 18, which means I better not be filling out this form, it means then the legal guardian is signing up somebody for the cab registration. I'm going to say mom. This better be somebody's legal name and stuff like that, so don't just put mom. So they can sign up for it, and they can also sign up for email. And this is what I was talking about before. You can sign up for email by just doing this. If you don't, we're not going to send you email. Now, if Reed was the only person I was signing up, I can hit register child. But if I have 2 children, I can just hit register another child, and I get that person registered, and I get to add a new child. Now you'll notice I get my registration number presented back to me. I am 1. Now I can turn around and see that up on the board, but we're going to give them that notice. So let's say Bill, which is actually my brother, and we're going to say that's who we're registering. So we registered both Reed and Bill. All right. So let's go back to our queue, and we're going to see. And you saw this probably on the board down below. Lucky for you, you get to see it. I don't. But we should have now Reed Owens as being the first one up there. R. Owens, number 1, is up next. And the Q is showing B. Owens being the one that's after Reed. We only see one blue is because we only have one table. So let's go add another table. So I'm going to hit Add Location up here. And let's say that Fred is going to be working on table 2. All right, so we've added Fred and table 2, but notice it's still blue and we only have one brown guy down below on the queue. So what I'm going to do is activate this table 2, and now we've got, well, we have nobody in the queue on the right, and we've got 2 people in that's up next. Well, let's go ahead, and I have right now for adding some test users because I don't want to have to keep doing the registration process. Let's go add a few people and say, hey, we've got some folks lining up. Now notice that queue on the right got pretty big, and there are also some times on how long people have been in the queue. All right, so right now what we need to do is let's assign the next person in line, which is Reed, to Andy's table. Andy comes over and says he's ready. So what we're going to do is, since Andy's ready, I'm going to hit the plus right here, and this takes the next student and adds them assigns them to Andy's table. That's all I have to do. So Owens Reed just got assigned to it, and you can see up on the board on the queue that Owens B is now the next person, and Owens R, which was another random guy, sorry, number 3 is actually going to be up after that. So they just got notified. Owens R should be around, and that's Randy. So Owens Randy should be there somewhere to go figure out who that is. Oh, actually, it's not Randy. You can see the name right here. Matter of fact, let's change that to Randy. All right, so just clicking on here, if somebody wants to change their names, you can go do that. All right, so let's go ahead and assign Owens B to the second table. Again, we do that by just clicking on the plus. Now notice I can't assign again. I can't hit this, and what that means is that person is done. So in this whole list, what's happened is let's say Andy took care of Reed, and he comes back over and said, I'm done. Well, even if you're not going to pick up somebody in the list, you need to do this immediately. Pretend for a second there's nobody in the queue. You still need to mark that person as done so that we understand how long things are taking. So you do that by just clicking on this X here. And now we've just processed Reed. Now you'll notice then that, up on down on the queue, you're going to see that table 1 has nobody assigned. Well, let's pretend for a second that Peggy Owens, for some reason, we want that person to go in front of this other one. And, their parent says, hey, no, let's change the order. So, well, we'll put Peggy up. And we can do that by choosing table 1 here. Now notice that I can only see the tables that have nobody assigned to it. All right, and I'm going to quickly see that by adding a new location, just making it up there just for a second. And you can see I see that new station there, okay? So you can only assign to stations that are active and that have no current student at it. So we're going to assign her to table 1, and we do that by selecting table 1, and then we click this button to the left to do the assignment. All right, so we've assigned her to table 1. You see Peggy, and you notice that the queues change. We've got the Randy Owens up next. And it goes from 3 to 4, and that goes because, well, we just took 4 out and assigned that to this table up here. All right, so let's take a look again, and what happens? Well, somebody comes up to you and says, well, how do we know who's been what? Have we handled anybody? I can show process, and we can see that Reed Owens was handled when they came into the queue, how long they actually worked on stuff, etc. All right, but again, let's go ahead and change up a little bit. Somebody comes in and says, hey, Randy is just having a lot of trouble, and can you just wait a little bit and we redo it. Now, if we agree to that, we can inactivate Randy. And now notice the list has changed, and Fred is now number 1 up on the list. So we can actually then turn around and let's say Fred got done over here. We clear him out. And when we hit plus here, we're not going to pick up Randy. We're going to pick up Fred. All right, because this is inactive. That's why it went a little bit gray over here. Now, let's pretend that we need to go reassign him, and we'll just take care of that. Again, we see that happening. Okay, so Wilma over here has gotten lost upstairs and is buying tons of stuff, and our vendors upstairs are really happy, and is just not around because she's up next. And matter of fact, let's go ahead and say, this is done. And hey, where is she? She's up next. She's not here. Okay, so we can inactivate her and then put somebody else up if we wanted to. And that's what I really suggest we do. If nobody's there, we do at least this. All right? And so we assign this next person up. Well, she pops up really quick, and we'll see that here. Let's go ahead and assign the next user. We see Owens R picked up. However, Wilma does come in. Well, if Wilma does come in, we can just reactivate her and assign her. We've seen that. But let's say she never shows up after a few minutes, and we're like, she's a no-show. So what we're going to do here is now, as she's been activated, we're going to hit an X over here, and that makes it so that she gets marked as a no-show. We can see that by showing processed over here. And we can see all the people that we've been doing. We can see their guardian if they had a guardian. And my demo data doesn't have guardians that we added. We can see who was the instructor, and we can see their time, but we can also see a check mark if they were completed and an X if they were a no-show. All right, so what we've covered is basically how to delete a user. So if we want to get rid of Fred, they did something, we just hit X here. We've seen how to inactivate somebody and how to mark them as a no-show. We've seen how to assign them if we can. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and do that again. We can assign them to any of the tables that we want to. We also saw how we can add somebody who's next in the queue, and we also see how we can actually clear somebody if there's nobody. Let's pick up somebody. We can clear somebody and mark them as done and being done by the instruction. And again, we need to do this regardless whether they're coming back for another student or they're done for the day. We just need to have that marked. Now, we also need to know how to add new locations. And I showed that earlier, how we add one by just clicking plus. And later on, we're probably going to have all the stations up here, and they'll just be inactive if nobody's at one of those stations, and you can reactivate it and say who they are. Changing the names are just easy as clicking it. If you hit delete, it does delete the station, and that's fine. We can always re-add them, etc. That's perfectly fine. All right, so what else is next? So we've seen the queue, we've seen the processing. Well, hey, what happens if we come in and log in for the first time? So let me just log out. Okay, and our login, and the URL will be a little different for you, but the login is going to be to manage. Okay, now this is a demo one, and the security is not active on this one. So what's going to happen is that you're going to go into a login screen, and you're going to have to provide your password to be able to go log in. Again, don't worry about this right now because that is a demo setup, and that will log you in, and we'll provide the username and password. Now, what else do we have here? A queue we've seen. Oh, yeah. So later on, if we need to take a look at this, we can go ahead and get an Excel spreadsheet of all the processing and seeing all the information. And this is all the information that we have so far being processed. You can see they've been processed, the sign-up time, who it was, the legal guardian, etc. So we got a lot of information in on here on this from a spreadsheet. So we can actually, this is what we're going for, so we can actually have all this information when we're done with the show. So we know when our high times are, our load times, how long it takes to get people through. So we have a better estimation of time later on. So if you have any questions, see me at the show. This is Reed. I'll be around all the days. And so if anything comes up, just come get me. Thank you.